Hello, this is Steve. Welcome to another episode of The Walk. This one could take a while. We'll see how long I wander on about this. This has to do with a recent Facebook post I made on why I appreciate aesthetics of design and kinetic art and products that do things. That's a pretty vague description. It started out with the fact that for a while I got into pinball, and I really liked older pinball machines that did everything mechanically, that the ball bouncing around inside and you're trying to keep it moving and going where you want it to do to score various things. Purely mechanically caused things to happen. Every bit of it was relays and switches and counters that stepped. All of these parts were electrical, not even really electronic. And of course they evolved from mechanical games that really had not even electrical parts in them. Similar thing with phonographs, actually. Phonographs started out with cylinders. Phonographs moved on to flat discs, but still acoustically recorded and played back. No electricity need be involved, except for perhaps to turn the turntable, and even then, initially more on the side where they cut the record than when they played, than the home playback, which was often a spring-wound turntable. So there was no electricity involved. And then I also brought up the fact that, you know, I tend to like analog electronics that do things. Though it's definitely electronic, I like reel-to-reel tape recorders. You can see the tape moving. Film projectors. Film projectors, you thread the film through, and it's a purely mechanical device. It can have electronics to do the sound, but it's not it's a pretty mechanical, tactile thing. And if it's wrong, as I heard somebody say in a video the other day, mechanical stuff tells you if it's wrong by breaking or not working. It's not just what we have now today in our electronic age of mysteriously there's an error code and you're not sure exactly why. If it's in the software, or if it's in the hardware or the sensors or whatever. So I like things that whirl and twirl and ding and bong and make noise and, you know, click and clack and whatever when they do things as a sort of a tactile feedback. And I appreciate the kinetic and industrial design, if I'm using those terms correctly, of those things. It's really fun to use them. It's fun to see them do what they do when they work correctly. When they don't work correctly, often it's pretty obvious why, and you can correct it. So this is why I think my interests get stuck a lot in the late 19th through mid 20th century in terms of music playback, recording devices, analog ones, pinball. I mentioned other older style arcade games. There's a wonderful arcade. This is not a plug, but there's an arcade up in San Francisco that is a museum arcade of things that you would have found in an arcade in the sometime between the 20s and the 50s rather than later. Pre-video game, we'll say. Anyway, and then there were motorcycles. Well, what could be more kinesthetic and, you know, I mean, I guess you could say a bicycle. A bicycle is also a very interesting thing and fun. But a bicycle, of course, is something that you have to, you know, exert more energy to use. So what could be more fun than a bicycle with an internal combustion engine or an electric motor? Although, again, by the time you get into modern electric motorcycles, there's a lot of microprocessor control and a lot less obvious stuff. An old motorcycle scarcely needs an electrical system. It needs a coil to ignite the spark at the appropriate time for the spark plug. And beyond that, it needs nothing to actually run. Any electrical stuff beyond that is only for lighting, turn signals, whatever. Auxiliary functions, not necessary to. It's kind of like if it's got compression, it's got fuel, and it's got spark at the right time, and the engine isn't mechanically broken, it will run. You can put it in gear and you can ride it around, and you can kind of deduce what's going on if there's a problem, a fault with the engine or with the, I mean, it's elemental. I guess I just like elemental things that move and make noises and give you tactile feedback as to their operation, as opposed to things that sit there kind of mute and mysterious in some ways as to what they're doing. That's just my take on it. But anyway, that's a little insight into why I really prefer and almost consider art, or industrial art. I guess that's the other thing I wanted to mention. I consider things like that kind of the highest state of industrial art of the mechanical age. It's things that were not, constructed as wonderful as the things we have today are, and this phone that I'm making the video on. There are some very interesting and good ideas done and things made well before every idea started with, let's get a microprocessor and write some code. There were a lot of things that said, if we make this spring and this switch do that, then, jukeboxes. I forgot jukeboxes. There we have it. It plays records, which are, of course, an originally mechanical recording format, and it plays them, and it has, at least in the old ones, all manner of pinball-like and whatever relay, selector, rotary, clicky switch things that allow you to hear B17 when you press B17 on the keys, that do that, all without microprocessors or anything. It's big, it's clunky, it breaks, yes, I know, but it's fascinating to actually see that things were once done that way, and I just appreciate as kinetic industrial art the things that work in that fashion. That's all for now. Thanks for listening.